Yeah, Twitter comments will be opened, and also we will monitor them. If something is weird, we'll yeah.
No,
Okay,
but I mean
should
on
be live on
our
Twitter.
on. Okay.
We won't see them here, right? Unless you guys forward them on.
Yeah, this was the question. Yeah.
No, we won't see them here.
That's fine.
People can forward them in the chat.
Sounds good. Yeah, I think we're live on Morningstar's Twitter. Yeah.
It seems, yes. I think we're live. Hi guys, everybody tuning in.
Hey.
GM.
GM. Looks like morning where you are, somewhere, Micka.
Yeah, Dubai. Yeah, that's my first stream during daytime, which I enjoy actually.
Yeah, daytime live stream. And Charles, you seem somewhere in a bunker. How are you doing?
No, I'm just in the office. I don't have too much natural light, but I'm in Dubai as well.
Interesting. So we're all in Dubai, but none of us are together. Well, I think we have a bit of time to chat and get to talk about everything we're working on, and specifically focus on Verse also that Micka founded a few years back, which is I think also how the three of us got to spend some good time together and get to work together. I think since we are kicking off, I think the best way to start would maybe be to introduce ourselves a bit to the audience. I think Micka, you can go ahead and tell us a bit about yourself, and then Charles, you can share what you're working on. And I think people know I'm from Morningstar. We are early investors in Verse. Charles and I know each other for a long time as well, and we're common investors in a number of projects. I'm excited to be here and learn more about whether we should say the metaverse, Verse, virtual worlds. I guess Micka, maybe kick off, please.
Yeah. So Micka in crypto since 2019, and then founded Verse in 2021. I was seeing projects like Decentraland and Sandbox rise, and I wasn't sure if it is actually the future of the metaverse, because my idea of virtual worlds where people can meet online every day from their home was a bit different. I think there's a use case for products like Sandbox and Decentraland, but just being more hyper-realistic to attract brands is a better option, I think. So founded in 2021, and then obviously bear market hit in 2022. So we focused most of our efforts on the Web2 side of the business and grew it a lot. So it started with 15 full-time engineers in 2021. Now it's 50, 65 people total, and a lot of Web2 clients now: Dubai Police, Toyota, Lexus, BYD. So that's on my side. It was mostly a Web2 company for a few years, and now we are coming into crypto with a digital world that's AAA quality. So that's what I do here.
Great. You're raising a few points I want to dive deeper in after. So you're giving me some good pointers there. Charles, on your end, maybe you can tell us a bit more about yourself and Rarestone.
Yeah, sure. So been in crypto 2016, Bitcoin, and then got into altcoins very quickly, probably to my detriment, as many of them went to zero, as you guys know. Launched Rarestone in 2020 to back super ambitious founders, and made some very early strategic investments into Solana, also backed Gito Labs, and then we kind of moved to focus on gaming. Gaming was a big market segment for us for a few years. Was largely a letdown, to be honest. But then I met Micka a few years ago, and I was really excited about what he's building, and that excitement's only grown, seeing how he's scaled that business into a very successful Web2 company that comes back into Web3 to create that immersive world. So thanks for having me, guys.
Yeah, thank you, Charles. And actually, I think that leads me kind of to something I want to talk about, which is, Micka, can you maybe tell us a little bit about this distinction between Web2 and Web3? Because you're profitable on the Web2 side, and can you explain to us how? and what that means also to push on the Web3 front.
Yeah. So I think the Web 2 and Web 3 sides of the business benefit each other. So the Web 2 side was obviously what we did the most until now. So the clients we have are, for example, Dubai Police that we signed on a few years. So we actually have one of our offices is inside the innovation center from Dubai Police. So we moved our 300 cameras scanner there, and we helped them with a VR training center that's being built to train their forces, and also with crime scenes, so we can recreate crime scenes. We help them with cameras, technology, also CCTV at the airport. So that's what we do with Dubai Police. Toyota, Lexus, and BYD, we do virtual showrooms for them, so we build their websites in the UAE. So if you go now on their website, everything was made by us. And in their physical showroom, what they do is usually it's useful if they don't have stock in the showroom, so they would just put our tech on people's head, and then they can configure the cars and order them online. Because we did their marketing system, if you only try a SUV in the VR, then you will only receive marketing emails about this specific SUV. So it's the way it benefits the Web3 is our Web3 component is basically backed by a solid company that has been profitable for a few years. So I think in crypto it's important because it just assures the people that it will not just like disappear. Basically, we cannot like run out of funds because we make money from the Web2. And then the Web3 aspect, the way I see it complement the Web2 aspect is it brings a lot of exposure. So obviously a lot of people saw us on launch, and then now, so we have a lot more downloads since the launch of the product. So the way I see it is a lot of brands can discover us through the Web3 part and then get involved with us on the Web2 services that we give.
And on a business model side, from what you're saying, is that on the Web2 front, it's more like a, let's say, tailored, non-scalable kind of service structure. However, when it comes to the Web3, you're looking at market and one kind of virtual world for all, right? So that's correct, I believe.
Yeah. So on the Web2 side, it's mostly, I would say like high ticket, highly developed solutions that we do for brands. So we can onboard a few at the time, and then we do really good work for them, big projects for each brand. But then the Web3 aspect can be scaled to infinity because it's available on the Epic Store, so like a Fortnite game, for example. And then any amount of people can just join the virtual world and participate to the economy inside there, play mini games. So yeah, it's two different type of products and audiences. Yeah.
Also, Micka, as I understand it, your Web2 clients get exposure and access to that Web3 world because it kind of acts as a bit of a centrifuge for all of the, the tech that you've built for them. So you can actually have advertisements in the game, and all them people get exposure to them companies too. So there's some attractiveness from your, from the clients to actually get exposure to the consumers as well.
Yeah. So one of the car brands that we have, they actually want to pay us to brand the cars inside the world to their brands, because obviously Web3 audiences are known to have a higher purchasing power usually than just regular Web2 audiences. So for brands that want exposure to this Web3 audience, we are a very good choice, I think. And you mentioned the ads inside the world, so on the big buildings, let's say in downtown Versworld. We have huge screens, and then our latest investment was made by Azerion, which is a European gaming advertiser, the biggest one actually in Europe. So we use their tech to monitor impressions for brands. So let's say someone's playing the game, he has 100 pixels displayed for 5 seconds, it will trigger an impression. And I think it's the first crypto game that can actually report good metrics to brands so that they can follow how much exposure they get.
Yeah, I remember in 2021, maybe 22, when HSBC bought some land in Sandbox for like millions of dollars so they could advertise there. And there was really no users. So if you can build a really good gaming experience that's consumer friendly and you have all them users, there's demonstrable demand for brands to advertise there. So that's what, I get really excited about as well.
Yeah.
And if the brands come, then Snoop Dogg comes eventually.
For sure. I don't know. Maybe he's been burned too hard, or maybe Sandbox paid him. Who knows? But hopefully, we'll see him come back.
Well, hopefully, we'll see him in verse. But I'm wondering that, like, what we are describing now. What was this kind of the pitch that you had heard, Charles, like 2 years back, or because I think there's been a number of iterations. You also had, I think, back in the day, focus on NFT. So I wonder, what was the first pitch that Charles heard? Like, what was verse back then?
It's a good question. I think it was more, I started when Micka originally kind of pitched me. I'd been thinking about this in a lot of detail for a few years. So I actually wrote a paper a few years back about the transition from websites to web spaces. And, I talked a lot about the chat rooms of the 90s and 2000s where we had Club Penguin and Habbo Hotel. And then we kind of transition into Fortnite Creative, more recently, Roblox, these creative spaces that people use as chat rooms and can kind of, freely express themselves. And when Micka explained to me what he was doing with the open world and having, we'd obviously seen at this point, we'd seen Decentraland, we'd seen Sandbox, the sales pitch was there. It just wasn't advanced enough. The timing was very early. It was obviously driven by a mania, largely because Facebook rebranded to Meta. There wasn't many assets in the market at that point, so people were rushing to Coinbase to buy the Meta coins and the gaming coins. But what Micka had explained to me that he was building was much more advanced. That was a real game, a gaming experience with lots of mini games, kind of a sandbox environment. And I started to realize, okay, he can do this, he can do that. And as time's passed, a lot of these things have come to fruition. So it wasn't all in the original pitch, but I saw the vision because it's something I've been thinking about for a long time. And it's something I even thought about, okay, how do we build this, or how do we, create these immersive worlds? But it's a very heavy lift. It's really difficult to build these high fidelity sandbox environments. And when Micka showed me what he'd built already, I was like, okay, he's throwing his hat in the ring. He has fantastic investors, and I knew it was going to be a success.
Actually, I didn't ask you, Micka, if it was okay to ask you that, but I know you have some celebrity investors from the non-crypto world invested in Verse, as well as some kind of rather unconventional people supporting, which I thought was always quite impressive. Maybe you can talk to us a bit about that and expand on what Charles said. And thanks, Charles, for sharing your experience in terms of what the project was back then. It has evolved quite a bit, and I think a lot of what was promised is actually, has been built and even monetized. So that's great. Micka, can you share a bit more on these early backers, and maybe you can talk about how you got them to believe in the vision?
Yeah, sure. So our first investors are actually have a similar background to theirs because they are a mix of Web 2 and Web 3. So they own Cointelegraph 100%, but also they are responsible for taking 7 tech companies to IPO. So they took Wix to IPO, Skype to IPO, 5 others. And they were the first angel investors in all of these. So they have a mixed background between Web 2 and Web 3, which we're doing also. So they open a lot of doors for us. I was speaking to someone recently and explaining, for example, the vision with Wix is that because they are still connected to the whole executive board at Wix, Wix wants to integrate with the metaverse in some way, but they couldn't find an experience that's high fidelity and AAA quality, let's say, for now. So it's very hard to showcase a brand product in Sandbox because it's the pixelated aspect. So what we're considering with Wix is, for example, implement a lot of their shops inside Verse. And then if you try on your avatar, let's say you try clothes on, you can order them and they get shipped to your house. So that's the Web 2 side of the investors. They open a lot of doors in the traditional world, let's say. And then obviously by owning Cointelegraph, they have access to a lot of Web 3 companies with which we can partner. And then you mentioned celebrities. So we have people like, let's say, Paul Pogba is a good example because I was chatting a lot with him, and basically what he explained is that for celebrities right now, the way to interact with their audiences is pretty limited, because if you post an Instagram or a Snapchat story, people can obviously react with like emojis and leave you comments, but it's not a very immersive or interacting way to engage with your audience. So that's why also we built the 3D scanner. So it's 300 cameras in a circle. You step inside, it takes pictures from you from every angle, and then you get like sent to the digital world kind of, and you can be yourself in the world. So Paul was telling me this is a really good alternative to social media for him to engage with people, because he can be himself in a digital world. Let's say he does like a giveaway or tournament, 100 people get selected to be in his server. He can voice chat everyone, and then he can live stream it to like 1 million more people. Most likely these 100 people, the questions they have, they recap a lot of the questions that 1 million people would have. And then all of a sudden he can be a lot closer to his community. So yeah, for a recap of the investors, it's mostly, so on the institutional side, we have Web2 and Web3, and then we have a lot of celebrity investors that advise us on which product to build for them.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah, and you also, I will not name them. I have understood it's not okay to name them, but I can say they play my favorite sports that we like to play. And you guys in Britain are not too bad at either. So, but it's great to see people from the traditional sports world being slowly more exposed to crypto and taking bets. And I know, of course, you've both raised equity and crypto, which I think also showcases the fact that there is a fundamental product behind Verse. Oftentimes, I think actually knowing whether a crypto product has raised equity or not is a good indicator from a investment point of view whether there's something to sell in the first place, because anybody can launch a token and raise money. There is plenty of investors willing to take risks, but when as an investor you purchase equity, you're literally purchasing numbers and traction and goals that the company actually has to achieve after they get product market fit. So I mean, I'm definitely have been impressed seeing, let's say, how the product per se has developed. Like I know you less long than Charles, so when I met you, what attracted to me was that you guys had like real clients like Toyota, I think Emirates, the Dubai Police, which I thought was just legit basically. And then kind of the crypto side, I learned it later. Like what I can add from my end, one thing that I find specifically interesting is the content and the stories and the engagement with the communities that you can do within the game, right? So, or within the world, right? So I think that's also where I hope we will have a lot of progress happening in the future, and interesting collaborations, because in the end you can build a beautiful virtual world, but what matters is what's happening inside that world, right? So I know you've built a very high quality world, but again, that's not enough, right? Like you need to have,
it needs to feel alive, otherwise people won't go there. I think this is one of the big problems that Decentraland had. It was cool, and when it was trending and everyone was hyped about it, it had some people that it felt like something was happening, but as soon as it's quiet, it just feels very empty and it's a lonely place to log into. So I think Micka's done a great job of creating lots of mini games that can be streamed and create streamable content. You can clip it, you can compete with each other, you can barter, you can bet. And I think that is a killer feature for making sure that the world feels alive and people want to join in.
Yeah. So the idea when I built Verse basically in 21 was I was flying around for like 10 hours to go to NFT NYC and Token 2049, and I thought it's not ideal that it's the only time I can meet other people from the crypto space is just by flying 10 hours and then 3 days flying back. So I thought I'm building this world, and my idea was that every community from crypto would have a space to interact in. I think one of the strengths that we have is that, so we are very close to a lot of the biggest memes founders like Modeng, Peanut. We announced this collabs on our X account. And basically what founders tell me usually is that if their holders are only in a Discord community or in a Telegram chat, it's just like logging in, typing GM every day, and then just logging off for the day. So if we manage, for example, the city center inverse, the way I see it in like 6 months, is having the 15 biggest memes inside, and then each building is branded for like a meme, and the holders can get inside, play mini games together, and then it's a lot easier for a meme to build a community inside Verse than inside a Discord chat, I think. So on the content side and the culture aspect of it, I think we understand it, and we learn from the mistakes of previous projects before us. So that's a big one on the content. And then we get the advice of a lot of people from the industry on what we should do to make it cool, basically, which others couldn't before us, I think.
How would you say have things changed now that, you're moving away from having, well, not that moving away, but you're expanding from having a clear product with customers and revenue to having to, manage a token and a community and expectations and kind of the whole Web3 also pressure that comes along when you run a crypto project, right? So you've just launched your token about 2 weeks ago. So I'd love if you can expand to us a little bit about the strategy that you followed, which was, I think, quite innovative and maybe replicated by others, in the future. And maybe you can talk to us a little bit about also the challenges of that launch or what's next and how you're dealing with it. I think it would be quite interesting for the audience.
Yeah. So the idea behind having a different way to launch the token was that around a year ago, I started speaking to VCs about the token. So I just had the traditional way of launching in my head at first. So I was speaking to VCs, and obviously VCs, for big checks, they want like a very low entry price. And then the goal for them is just basically to like sell on retail when retail adopts the product. And I thought it's not ideal because retail is the sector that makes your product great. And then in the past, retail was just exit liquidity for like VC. So I thought it doesn't align with the vision. And I was a lot in the like trenches myself. I've always been a Solana maxi. I was buying Solana memes in early 2021. So the first ones that came out. So I thought this doesn't really align with the vision I have. So I just told most big VCs that I don't think I would feel comfortable with having them on board. And then I thought, what would an alternative be? And I was spending like 3-4 hours on Photon every day, looking at the new launches. And so I found myself just digging through projects with like 1,000 followers on Twitter, but because they had just launched, I was doing all the research. And then at first it was just a funny idea that came to me, but I was like, okay, if we actually launch as a 5-year-old company that makes revenue, if we launch on it, then it would just be the biggest exposure event ever because everyone's looking at what launches in the trenches. So if we just appear from them, everyone will see us. I expected exposure not as much as we got. It got a bit crazy, and this market is very much musical chairs now, I think. So what we got with the launch was a first wave that was purely speculative, I think. So everyone saw this thing appear with a lot of partnerships. So there was a lot of FOMO into the launch. And then now I think the speculative way happened, and now it's mostly people that did their research and then want to be in the project for long term. So the launch was more exposure than I thought. It's good, I think, and I think Pump Fund is by far the best way to launch a token going forward because you can't replicate this much attention in any other way. So Pump Fund is by far the best way. I think because it was the first company launching on it got as much exposure because it was very different from what trenches usually see.
First company with a clear utility, right? Like
Yeah, and like revenue and for a long time. So usually it's memes, right? But even go ahead, Charles.
I was just going to say, Micka, when you said that you wanted to launch on Pump, I was pretty shocked. But I think it was quite brazen, and we'll see. The next couple of weeks should be interesting. Obviously, the Pump token's coming soon. I have a lot of faith that the Pump Fund team have. They want to attract real business to the platform, and you have obviously turned down the traditional way of launching that most people follow. to kind of to launch with Pump. So I think that's going to pay off. And yeah, I'm excited to see how, you know, the next couple months unfolds, because the Pump token launch will bring a lot of eyes, and you know, we've got a lot cooking, right, with Verse. So it should be an interesting summer.
Yeah. No, I was just, before the launch, I was just thinking about the different ways of launching, and I just thought the narratives aligned so well, because Pump Fun this cycle is where everyone made friends basically in the trenches, looking at new projects together. And the metaverse, even if the metaverse is a tricky term, I think that will be cool again, but it was the concept was rushed a bit in the last few years, but the metaverse is supposed to be where people actually make friends. So I thought it's just such an obvious thing that both narratives aligned. That's why we chose it.
Yeah. So I mean, I similarly to Charles was a bit surprised, and it took me a while to understand. Also because on our end, I mean, unfortunately, we've basically, you know, missed the whole meme trend, and focusing on fundamentals has also caused us personally some challenges. So, you know, it took me a while to understand like the benefits of this, and I do think, you know, retrospectively also after having met the Pump.Fun founders, was, you know, through you, Micka, you know, definitely understood kind of the synergy more deeply, right? The same way you are, you know, quite focused on Web 2, so is Pump.Fun, right? You know, I'm a small investor in the project, and, you know, so I can't give a, you know, I'm in no position to give like, you know, any sort of, you know, clear, you know, outlook on what's next with Pump.Fun. But from what I understood, and I think is okay, kind of being understood publicly, is that the platform wants to do way bigger things than simply just being a meme launch platform, right? So I think having had Verse, you know, choose it as a platform is only going to be a good testament for what's next with the Pump.Fun platform. I know live streaming is becoming increasingly important for them. Obviously, live streaming is a very important part for Verse per se. So I think there's, you know, a good connection there. And I also understand that the launch isn't far away, right? And I think this whole creator economy topic is another one that both you share with Pump.Fun. So I think that there's a lot of strategic kind of, you know, reasons of what that made sense. I do understand there's obviously also challenges, right? Like you said, it was uncontrollable in the beginning, and too many people, you know, aped in, and you know, it also went, I think, to 1.2 billion valuation, which probably also happened because, you know, I believe they retweeted it, and it was the first project that also was retweeted the contract officially. So, you know, I think the one perception which I think the Verse team also has to showcase, and this is also a little bit why we did this live stream, or why we think it's important to put Micka out there, is to just, you know, deassociate the idea that, you know, only memes can launch on Pump.Fun, right? Verse is far more than a meme project. It is, you know, not even a meme project. It is a degen utility coin project, right? That it embodies a variety of gaming aspects, a variety of social fi aspects, and then technical kind of virtual world aspects, right? So that's what I think is pretty unique about the project, and why I'm excited. Maybe you can tell us a little bit about you know, what's next on the Web3 side per se, like where we are at with the product, what are some of the utilities that you're going to be focusing on, and kind of what can users expect, and why should they hang out on the platform in the first place?
Yeah. So the Web3 side has a lot of interesting things coming. I think we'll have the first mechanics in crypto that actually make a Web3 game cool. So Charles mentioned it. People will be able to wager money and bet against others. So there will be a matchmaking system also. So let's say you want to play a shooting game or a racing game inside, and you want to like bet $100 on yourself for a game, then you will be match-made with 10 other people. And then we can have interesting dynamics coming into place, because if 10 people bet like $100, we could make like the prize pool for the winner $900 and then burn 100, which I think we should learn from the past, where tokens like Sandbox and Decentraland just had massive inflation, because the way they were getting users was just to give tokens nonstop to people. It's good in a bull market, I think, but then when demand dries up, it's hard because market is oversaturated with supply. So I think will be the first game that actually has mechanics when it gets used a lot that could make the token deflationary. So that's on the token side. We'll also have mechanics that fix kind of the pay to win issue that Web2 has. Like if you play Call of Duty and you spend $100 on like a diamonds skin, people said, oh, you just paid for it. So what we want to do in Verse is, if you want to have cool perks or cool attributes, you have the option to burn tokens to get those perks. So let's say it's randomly, like Paul Pogba, for example, comes on the game, he streams, you want to be noticed by him. If you want, let's say, your username to show up in like gold or something, then you just burn token to get it. And then you can get a great flywheel, I think, for the first time ever in a crypto game, because the more people you get in, the more the token economy does, the better it does. And then usually what's a bit weird, but that's the way it goes, like usually games in crypto gain traction when the token does well. So price goes up, people come in the game. So if we have a flywheel where the economy does well, and then this attracts new players, and the new players also contribute to the economy going well, then we actually get a flywheel. So that's the future for the Web3 aspects. Unlike the token side, I would say. On the community side, it's just, so as I said, we mentioned the partnerships with like Moodeng, Peanuts, Turbo. So on the Web3 side, to attract communities, it will just be building branded experiences for them and headquarters. For them, a lot of them are down to move their audiences from like Discord and Telegram to Verse. That's what will make it alive, I think. So that's on the community side for Web3.
Mm-hmm. Interesting. And Charles, from everything that Micka just explained, how do you think we can best support him from an investor standpoint? You have any ideas or any challenges you think he has to overcome to kind of move in this direction that he's describing?
Yeah, it's a really good question. I think the main thing that's going to be key to kicking off the flywheel once the bartering system and the competitions are built into the game is onboarding creators to the platform. And obviously we have a lot of native creators to Web3 who we can bring on the platform. And one of the things you mentioned, Danilo, in relation to Pump Fun was their focus on streaming and creator economy. And it's so synergistic with Verse World, because Verse World can almost become that default streaming game and coin for a lot of the trenches, and a lot of that competition will drive content. The content will drive more users, more downloads, and that's going to ultimately benefit the token. So what I'll be doing to support Micka over the next couple of weeks is basically outreach to a lot of Twitch streamers. Particularly we'll target Roblox, Fortnite Creative, and GTA 5 roleplay servers. These are the type of users who want a sandbox to go in to compete in, to barter with their audience, maybe do giveaways, and that content becomes very clippable, becomes very viral. And then it's going to be really important to focus on the TikTok, YouTube Shorts, basically short form content. That's going to onboard, the next wave of users, and that's going to benefit the token holders as well. So I think it's a pretty heavy piece of work is to actually get these creators onboarded, to do all the outreach. So I'll be looking to help Micka with that, so that we can have a really airtight strategy to onboard as many creators as possible, and just get this content machine buzzing and pushing out clips all the time, because it's really not been done. And actually, Danilo, you I believe you're a pretty big Gunzilla advocate, and something that they've done well is to onboard the Web2 streaming community. And the only reason they were able to do that is because they built something good. It's compelling, it's enjoyable to play. And it's the same with Verse. So We've got really big plans for onboarding streamers. You know, there's already some conversations ongoing. Obviously, I won't say too much. I'll leave that to Micka. But there's a lot of conversations going on with very big streamers to, you know, kick that off in the next couple of weeks.
Yeah, it's interesting. You do mention Gonzilla because that was a very different strategy. However, there is actually, you know, I'm not saying there is definitely some overlap in terms of the fundamentals of the different teams. However, as you said yourself, an entirely different strategy in terms of go-to-market, right? And I think lessons can be picked, you know, from both, right? I think without a doubt, you know, launching a Web3 game or launching a game that is empowered by Web3, you know, is it's not enough to just launch a great game, right? Like this is one thing we learned on one side. On the other hand, you know, with regards to Verse, you know, if you want to be present in Web3, it's not enough to have, you know, B2B customers and tailored, you know, virtual world solutions, and not even enough to have a great working metaverse. You need to have, you know, the kind of degen crowd. You need to have the partnerships. You need to have the content machine that Charles was describing. So I don't know. I was quite curious to understand whether you can maybe give some examples so the audience can also grasp their head around what would these kind of partnerships look like what are some actually ideal partnerships, you know, we could think of, whether it's sports, whether it's lifestyle, fashion. I don't know. Maybe you can both talk about some that are already in the works. I'm not sure whether I can name some of the projects I know that you're working with, but I'll let you, you know, leak what you can. And then maybe on a second note, we can talk about what we would like what are some of the North Stars that ideally could be a good, you know, partnership.
Yeah. Is this mostly streamers that you're referring to, or brands or clients? Or?
I was even thinking of, you know, Web3 communities like we talked about in the past, and how you can do gated accesses for them, and what does the utility mean for specifically people within the NFT space, right? Because as NFT holders, the biggest utility is access to something, right? So how does that apply into the verse economy?
Yeah. So for communities, as I was mentioning, so let's take Peanut as an example. So I was speaking to the team. They want us to build like a theme park inside that's centered around it. And so we could make it token gated or not based on community's needs, because on one side, obviously, you can have it token gated so that it's only holders that interact. On the other, I think it makes sense for it not to be token gated, because if you're Peanut and you have, let's say, 200K holders and you want to go to 1 million, it could be good to have just, let's say, normies or non-holders that join this theme park. They can have exposure to the community that's already there. And then if they want to join it, then they will buy the token and then join it. So I think there's a benefit to both. I think for like alpha groups or like whales chat, for example, let's say Peanut has a whales chat, it's good to have a token gated one, because then they can share like information only to holders, let's say, but then to grow the awareness around the project, it's good not to have it token gated, I think. So that's on the community side. On the streamer side, for Web2 streamers, because we have so many devs and a lot of capacity to build experiences fast, I think it's mostly adapting to news. So let's say this Web2 famous person just did a race with this person, or so we could reproduce it inside the game and then have the like metaverse version of it happen again. And that's content that usually goes viral quick, I think. So those are the plans for like communities and streamers, I think. One thing I wanted to touch on before I forget about it, because Charles, you mentioned Minecraft. So I was speaking recently to someone about like GTA, and I was saying I think all games will become crypto at some point, because they won't have a choice. Because if you have a game that actually breaks through the Web2 crowd, like we hope we can do, if someone plays let's say he's 16 or 20, he still lives at home, he plays a game, he actually builds a business inside, and he can make money from it, like why would you go to a game that doesn't have monetary upside potential? I think so. Obviously, like GTA Rockstars, they have like tens of thousands of devs. They put in $1 billion to create GTA 6. So the game quality will never be comparable, or at least not in the next few years. But if you can go to GTA, let's say people played for 5 years GTA 5 or 10 years, right? And then when GTA 6 comes in, then you have nothing that you can take from your GTA 5 work and bring into the GTA 6 game. So you just lost everything basically. Whereas I think it makes sense that in a game you actually own your assets. And I think games that don't offer this option will just disappear after some time because Web3 games will just take over.
I'm actually curious to hear what both of you think with regards to GTA and the new edition. You guys think this will have some sort of impact, or probably it will, but what will be the impact you guys think this crazy game will have towards the Web3 industry? I mean, if indeed they have blockchain elements built into their economy, like you think we will have finally some sort of sentiment shift with regards to gaming and the opportunity there? Charles, maybe you have some ideas on that?
I don't know if they will embrace blockchain assets. I'm not sure if they've announced that they will, but I'd be very surprised if they do. I think regardless, though, the liquidity in the industry will probably dry up for a few weeks when GTA 6 comes out, because I think a lot of people are going to want to go play that. And the creator economy, obviously, around streaming will explode. I think one of the things that Verse can learn from is the role-playing servers on GTA 5. There are, hundreds of thousands of players in these role-play servers. They're complete sandboxes. People make their own rules, and Verse can replicate this and have, some of these servers can be completely player-controlled and have completely different rules than the base version of the game. And this is the great thing about having server-based infrastructure, because you can encourage the streamers to come on and basically replicate what they're doing in GTA 5 and soon 6. So I think it will be very interesting to see how much they've invested in the sandbox version of GTA and not just the storyline, because I know some people make like 6 figures a month from running GTA 5 servers, and they're like just selling cars and helicopters to the users, and they make so much money running these servers. And as Micka said, the same in Roblox, in Minecraft, you've got these custom servers that these kids are running, and they're running real businesses. So it will be interesting to see if Rockstar have invested into sandbox and server creation more.
Mm-hmm. Actually, this is telling me, or this is hinting me an idea that I think we covered briefly. But if you look at the biggest platforms in the world, they provide a setting where the actual user of the platform can monetize the platform. Like we look at Airbnb, we look at Uber, all of these. Like what's your strategy with empowering users within the Verse world to eventually monetize their time within Verse? Is this something on the roadmap? Is this something you have a specific idea on, Micka?
Yeah. So I'll touch on the role play aspect of it. So for now, the servers that are public are just the general servers, which are, like, let's say, very family friendly. You can't fight people, you can't get run over by a car. The idea is to have a lot of those RP servers on the side where people can create their own rules and businesses. So if you, let's say, because there's no like blood in the general server, let's say if you want a server where you can like shoot each other or like rob people, we'll make it available. We have different ideas, but like I was thinking, because we have this scanner thing, I was chatting to someone about like the concept of OnlyFans and how it can be implemented. So usually people that subscribe to those creators, it's mostly to chat with them, not necessarily to like watch pictures and stuff. So I was thinking those kind of creators we could like scan, and then inside the servers they could be like, oh, tomorrow at 2 p.m. I'll be live, whatever. You can pay $100 to join the server. They have 1,000 people that join. So it joins the thing I was mentioning with Paul Pogba to interact with that community, but for like different industries. So we'll have a lot of different servers with different rules where people can just monetize their content and the time that they spend inside. The general servers, I think, will be mostly oriented towards brands that want exposure. So I think the general servers, will be brands that want to advertise things. In the general servers, what we'll do is we'll have a no-code library so that people can build things, but they cannot build just anything with no moderation. And then in the custom servers, I think we'll just let people build anything they want. So that's where the crazy content will come from, and that's where people will be able to create innovative businesses.
Yeah. No, I'm looking forward to that. And if I think of platforms like Instagram specifically, I'm always fascinated by how actually content creators themselves come up with the best ideas with regards to monetization, right? When the founders of Instagram created Instagram, they built the pure photo sharing app. There was no, much thought behind what the platform could potentially become and how creators can, have different formats and different, call to actions and types to then kind of monetize their own career, right? So I'm definitely curious to see, how creators and individuals will use the Verse platform to maybe come up with things that you're not thinking of right now. And I think that's actually, the blank canvas kind of idea where oftentimes the best innovation comes from the client, the user. And I do hope this is something we can foster, and you should definitely focus on a lot. What would you say, Micka, has been something you're very proud of in terms of you've achieved, and then maybe something you're a bit less proud of, or you want to do a better job in, or you want to improve? Maybe you can tell us.
I'll just give a short anecdote on something you touched on. So I was speaking to someone who's very close to the team of World of Tanks, this game where it's like a war game, and to illustrate the fact that usually game developers are not the best at knowing what gamers actually want. So there was a developer in World of Tank that, as a joke on a private server that wasn't supposed to be displayed to the public, created a tank that's pink completely. So you had all those manly looking tanks that are black, green, everything. There was a pink one also. And by mistake, he pushed it live. So it went into the shop for the same price as the other tanks. And he thought at first of removing it fast before people understand that it's live. And then it was actually the tank that they sold the most over the next 3 months because it was so different. So it started as something that he thought was a mistake and no one would like, and then people actually bought a lot of those pink tanks. So just to illustrate the fact that it's usually best to give the option to people to decide what they want to do. And that's what I think Decentraland and Sandbox didn't really do, is they just put something out there. If you like it, that's good. If you don't, just don't participate. So we're taking an approach that's a lot more open-minded, I think, of people in communities. When I speak to founders of Peanut Turbo, there's another one that we'll announce in a few days. I usually ask them to ask their community what they want instead of just building something and going to them and telling them, "Oh, we just built this for you." And then something we are proud of. I think bringing a Web2 company that had raises with established investors to a Web3 audience and giving access to something that's backed by strong investors was a bold move, but I think it will be a good one, especially with the amount of tokens that were launched this cycle. I think people are a bit lost. The market is a bit diluted. So if you can just take the approach of you have a strong company, you take it to Web3, you give the opportunity to people to invest and participate in something that's not going away in 6 months, I think was a bold move, but will make us able to create a big community. So that's something I think I'm proud of. Something we are less proud of. I think but that's something minor. But I think there's one mistake that we did with the launch is that I didn't expect the threads of the launch to get this much attention. And basically, what I was telling someone is in Dubai, when we go around, everyone knows Verse. So I just went into the launch thinking, oh, everyone already knows the company and what we did. And the threads of the launch was just, okay, here is the launch, here is the token address. And so because it got so much exposure, I think people just associated the term verse with just a coin, and people think, oh, it's just this coin that launched. So if I knew that we would get so much exposure, I think we would just have written a thread that has all the investors, all the partners, how many years we've been there, the size of the team. So that's one thing I missed, actually, this huge moment of exposure. We could have educated people better, but it will just be my mission going forward, which is to educate people on what we do, basically.
Yeah, I would actually agree with that. I do think one thing we could have done better is communicate the fundamentals behind the project, and the fact that you've been doing this for 2 years already, and that actually the token launch was just a new chapter, but was not the start nor the end, right? And there's, I think a lack of knowledge and information that the community still has to grasp. And I think this is something you have to invest in a lot going forward, into kind of educating the fundamentals, and especially like allowing users to try it, right? Allowing users to basically play around with it. I think that's where particularly partnerships with other communities and existing kind of products becomes particularly important. So that's something I'm also personally excited about. And I do think there's, a lot of kind of, especially NFT communities that are very loyal to their projects, but they're looking for stuff. They're dormant. They're looking for a fresh utility. They're looking for exciting things to do. So I think this is one area we should definitely work on. I know, Charles, you've been an NFT collector for a very long time, and you did quite well, I think, in the past with some of the NFTs. What's your idea on this topic and activating NFT communities within virtual worlds?
Yeah, it's interesting you mentioned that. Micka, if I recall correctly, you did a NFT sale for some of the original apartments in Verse. And just while we're on this note, I think while everyone's here, you go to Epic Games Store, download Verse World, check it out, and you can actually go and visit some of these apartments if they're open. Most of them will be locked by the owners. But the original NFT buyers, they became this core group of supporters throughout the last couple of years for Verse. And I think that, as you said, these NFT communities are, they have diamond hands, they get involved, they're always supportive, and that actually formed the basis of a really good community for Verse. And now they're seeing the results of that come to life as the world kind of scales up and becomes more popular. So I think there's opportunity to lean into NFTs more as the game scales. But what I don't want to see is Micka selling every single plot of land in the game and, just creating this mania of real estate purchase. It's more about how do we strategically make that valuable and make it so it's desirable, but also fairly priced, so that that reflects on how many consumers are interacting with it or walking past it. The same with the advertisements. We can't charge a lot of money for these advertisements if there's no users. So it's all about bringing the users to the game, and then the value of the advertising space actually improves. And because it's dynamic, it can always be changing, and I think that will be interesting to see. So I'd love to see NFTs be a bigger part of Verse in the future, but I think right now it's all about getting more users. So make sure to head to Epic Games Store and check the game out if you haven't yet.
Yeah, and also join the Discord. I think that's important. Try it out, download it, download the game and try the virtual world. This is the best way to kind of understand the scale of the project, also compared to the other existing solutions, without name shaming the old ones that still stick around. But the quality of the virtual world is very impressive. So definitely join the Discord. Also at Morningstar Ventures, we run a guild called MSVGG, where our community is very engaged and supportive, and there's actually ways that Micka enabled for our core community members to be engaged, to do product testing, to find bugs, to come up with ideas, and of course there is rewards there. So maybe as a last question, I'd like to actually talk about the alpha, right? Like, so I think we're, I mean, let's put it mildly. A very crazy launch that wasn't planned, right? Like there was no strategy or expectation or to have such a crazy spike, which has also gained us a lot of attention, which is great. But what's more exciting now, I think, is to have like kind of even talking about token price, a sustainable and progressive growth that aligns with the adoption of the product and the rollout of all the features. So do you have any alpha for us to share? Like, how do you think maybe even the pump.fun launch may impact Verse, and do you think we're starting a trend of more utility coins launching on Verse? Like give us some juice. Let's reward all the people that have listened to us and taken time off their busy schedule to kind of be engaged with Verse, and that'd be cool.
Yeah. On the pump fund subject, I don't have, I think, more information than anyone else. They keep their plans pretty private. So I have no confirmation if there will be an airdrop on anything of the sort. I think it would be a great move from them, and I think if they do it, it will revive the trenches a lot. And I think, as you said, having mindshare is the most important thing here, because if people think of the recent pump fund launches, obviously we come to mind. So pump fund will get all the attention for like the next few weeks and months because of their token launch. So I think us being associated to it is a good thing. If they manage to do an airdrop and it's successful, I think liquidity will flow into the whole ecosystem. So it will probably give a lot of new holders and community members to a lot of the projects that launch on it. So we can hope to benefit from it. I think it makes sense. But then, that's the only alpha I have. I don't have much info on the pump launch. I just think it benefits the whole ecosystem if they do well, and I think they will do really well.
I mean, honestly speaking, I was more referring to alpha for Verse. So, but I do understand. Things come step by step. Charles, did you have any comments or questions or ideas to share for the audience before we wrap up and leave Micka off to biddle mode?
No, I would just love Micka to reiterate the incentive program to actually jump into Verse World right now, because there's some prizes to be won, and I think that people are interested in this. Obviously, Micka, maybe you want to talk a bit about that.
Sure. Yes. So what we launched at the same time as the token inside the game is something called Verse Games. So the name is just inspired by this games on Netflix, but it's basically a series of 6 quests that people have to complete. The first person to complete it will get the equivalent of $100,000 prize right now. So we already we passed 5 of the quests, but the winner is the one that completes the 6th one first. So even if someone joins now and he completes the 5 quests, then the 6th one will be on Sunday, I believe. So the first person to complete the 6th quest, which we expect to be difficult, but we had a lot of very smart people joining it. Actually, they are getting completed a lot faster than I thought they would. But there's about $100,000 up for grabs now. We will run this every month. A bit on the metrics maybe of the competition. So since launch, we had about 1,000 people downloading the game every day, new users, and we have about 6,000 hours of play time every day. So the equivalent of 6,000 people playing for an hour. It's mostly people trying to figure out the quests. I think we did a really good job at this. So if people join the game and join the quests, they are actually very entertaining to complete. So we will run this every month. What we decided for this month was that the winner that finds it first gets the whole prize. What we might do for the next few months would be, for example, next month, maybe the 50 first people to do it get like $2,000 each. Maybe it will be a bigger prize, but that's what we are running on the competition sites. But yeah, maybe some alpha that if people saw most of the tokens are locked and we didn't take big checks from VCs, and most of the unlocks will be towards community. So if I can just give some alpha, I think there are a lot of tasks that people can complete in the games that will be rewarded